you. Thank you, everybody. What a beautiful day out there, right? Spring day, it's great. So we'll go through this and everybody get to go outside and go for a walk. And welcome here. I don't know how many of you explore the botanical gardens throughout the year, but it is a wonderful place that we've, at Bergen County Audubon, certainly come to love and enjoy throughout the year. We'll be doing a lot of butterfly walks and bird walks and bluebird walks and all kinds of fun stuff. So come out and join us throughout the year. So today's program, really, so I want you to go take anything away from the program today, is that your backyard is a habitat, right? And so we really have to think of it that way. And whether it's your schoolyard, whether it's your business, whatever it is, you know, sometimes we tend to separate things conveniently, right? Well, the nature center over here, the botanical garden's a wonderful natural place, but my backyard is another thing. In my backyard, I get to spread insecticides and pesticides, and what I plant doesn't matter. But over on the other side of the road where the nature center is, that matters. But we have to get away from that kind of thinking, right? It's all connected. And I think we're starting to evolve in that direction. In New Jersey, we're going to reach a point of build out at some point, right? Which just means everything that's built on is built on, and everything that's preserved is preserved. The only thing that we can do at that point will be to create wildlife habitats and butterfly gardens in our own properties, right? So if we want to make our favorite nature center a bigger place, the way we can do that is get yourself, your friends and neighbors and schools and businesses to plant native plants and create habitats right where you live. And so we really will live in a totally different community, a different state, if we just do a little of that. And that's what the program is going to talk a little about, how we get started doing that, right? So butterflies need a real helping hand, you know. They've really taken it on the chin, and people ask me, well, Don, you're from the Audubon Society. What do you care about butterflies, right? I used to get that. And really, it's all connected, right? It's all, so you could have a butterfly garden, and the birds can't read the sign. You know, the birds love the butterfly garden, the bees love the butterfly garden, and vice versa for that much. So it really is truly a habitat. And so we know by creating habitat for bees and butterflies, we're going to make the birds happy and all the creatures of our wildlife happy. So this is what I get most of the time. So you don't want to be that guy, but it's true, you know. When, you know, and some of these things are real insidious, right? You know, all of a sudden it seems like you turn around one day and you say, yeah, I don't see those butterflies or lightning bugs or those creatures like I did when I was a kid growing up. And that's true. For the most part, you don't. And one of those reasons, well, the main reason is habitat loss, but it's also the degradation and habitat loss right in your backyard. We're treating our backyard habitats very differently than we did years ago. So we'll talk a little bit of how we could turn that around and change things up. Again, habitat loss, pesticides, herbicides that we've just gone crazy with, and the introduction of non-native plants. Oh boy, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And fragmentation of habitat. You know, we used to only think that was important for migratory birds. And what that means is chopping up the forest, chopping up the habitats. Birds to migrate need these places to rest and eat and refuel on migration and get wherever they're going. Butterflies and pollinators need that too. So when we start chopping up that habitat, and it's convenient for, I deal with this with politicians all the time. They'll say, Don, well, we got this forest over here for you, and over here it's okay if we build houses, and over here this is like urban or suburban planning. It doesn't work that way. You have to tell them it doesn't work that way. Everything is connected, so you can give something a name here and something here. Each one of those nature centers should be managed, despite whether they're in another town, they're on another street. They all have to be managed because they are really interconnected. And your gardens now are those connecting pieces. They could be a big piece of that puzzle. And so why native plants? Well, this is it, right? They adapt better. Obviously, they've evolved here for millions of years. They adapt better to the soils. They require less care and watering. Nobody's running around the forest watering and pruning everything, but these plants do fine. Less fertilizer, less pest control, and the birds and butterflies recognize them. Again, they have evolved together. They need each other. And they offer whatever it is, whether it's a bird or a butterfly, what they need all year round. So we can't start talking about the really good stuff, the really fun stuff, until we talk about the ugly stuff. And the ugly stuff is still things that, unfortunately, you could still go to a nursery, you can go to any garden center and buy these things. And these things are really, I get depressed just looking at the names, because the way we spend at Bergen Audubon, many of us do habitat restoration, what we'll talk about, and so we not only spend time planting the good stuff, we have to spend a lot of time getting rid of this stuff, because it just really is, so next to a bulldozer, next to me taking a bulldozer and plowing over a big piece of land, the next worst thing are these things. So an area could look lush and green and beautiful. If it's filled with these ugly things, it might as well be plowed over just about, because these are things that our wildlife, butterflies really can't use. Things like mile a minute, and it's called mile a minute because it grows about a mile a minute. Garlic mustard, everybody has in their yard somewhere. You can make, if you like pesto, you can make pesto out of it. But and so what do they do? What do they do? They disrupt natural habitats. They reduce biodiversity, that big word biodiversity, which just means a lot of different life forms, a lot of different plants, butterflies. It really hurts butterfly populations. And again, next to habitat loss, excuse me, it's the worst thing that you can do. And 42% now of our native plants are becoming endangered because of these invasive plants. So don't buy them. So where do you start, right? So some people, it seems a little overwhelming, but it's fun. And this should be really empowering to you. Again, this is something that we could all do, right? We don't need to write to the president. Good luck with that. You write to the governor, and say we need to do this. This is something that we can do this spring and accomplish just wonderful thing by creating habitat in your yard. And just, again, go organic, sunny location for the most part for butterflies, but you know what? You could do woodland garden for butterflies too. Two kinds of plants that we'll discuss, the host plant and nectar sources. They need water just as every other creature does. We're going to how to make a puddle. Again, no pesticides. And this big one, don't clean up. Boy, let me tell you, so one reason that guy was crying at the beginning, because he cleaned up too much. He threw out next year's butterflies. So when you're a nice, neat gardener and you rake up all those leaves and you cut back everything and you feel good about yourself, you just threw out next year's butterflies in many cases, and moth species and lightning bug species and all kinds of species. So leave the leaves. Don't clean up. Saving you some work, and you'll have a much healthier backyard. Now, here's the host plant. So a host plant is something that butterflies need to lay their eggs on. They're very, very specific to what they will lay their eggs on. Some have multiple host plants, some only have one. The nectar sources are the things that the adult butterflies get their food from. Some do double duty. Some will be good for both. But those are the two things you need to have a real, true butterfly habitat. One without the other doesn't work. So let's talk about milkweeds, right? We all know about the monarch. And I really believe that this was a grassroots effort to help the monarch, right? We didn't wait for, although we need a partnership with government and local governments and to do the right thing to help the monarch. We all took it upon ourselves. We knew what had to be done, right? We need to plant milkweed, and everybody planted milkweed. And I think we really did a great job, and still needs more to be done from a lot of different angles. But it's great. Last year was really a good year for the monarchs, who've been really disappearing. But the host plants, and there's about 9 different species of milkweed native to New Jersey, but these are the 3, for the most part, that you're going to find at the local nurseries. Common milkweed, swamp milkweed, butterfly weed. Again, it's the host plant. It's what the monarch needs to lay their eggs on. If there's no milkweed, guess what? There's no monarch butterflies. But it's also a great nectar source for many, many species of butterflies. The swamp milkweed, beautiful. White, pinks, all kinds of colors. I mean, swamp milkweed is just beautiful. Don't have to grow in a swamp. It doesn't, you can, but it doesn't have to. It'll grow in pretty average garden soil. You're fine. Common milkweed. So this is the one you see growing along the roadsides. You may not want it in the backyard, although I love it in my backyard. It does travel. The swamp milkweed is a little more tame, but if you want to naturalize an area, this common milkweed is really the one to do that. And it gets a beautiful flower, beautiful smelling flower, just wonderful. And it's a great nectar source and host. The butterfly weed, the tuberosa, good for drier, sandier soils. As far as the host plant, the monarch would prefer the other 2 before the butterfly weed, but they will use it. They will use it. So those are the 3 that you'll find. They're beautiful wildflowers in their own right? Who wouldn't want those flowers in their yard? And it's just a wonderful way to help. The purple milkweed now is becoming more available. In the spring and summer, you can come out to our butterfly gardens out here, and you'll see it planted there, which is a little more finicky, but beautiful, right? And so this was my backyard. Again, I have a tiny little backyard, about half the size of this room, maybe not even that. And the year that the monarchs were really suffering, that nobody could find them anywhere, I just was going down the steps going to work one day, and I found all these caterpillars in my yard. So it was you just never know, and that's why every yard is really important. And they'll be starting that migration route. They winter in only a few places in Mexico. There's amazing migration. You can imagine a butterfly as far north as that line up in Quebec and Canada, making that journey all the way south to Mexico. They'll overwinter, come up through the panhandle in Texas, lay eggs, and the next generation will come up until that very last generation, the 4th generation, is the one that migrates back south. So it's just one of the most amazing things in nature, and we certainly never want to lose that. And we do tag monarchs. Marie, our education chair, is back there. She's the excellent monarch tagger. She does a wonderful job. And one of the reasons we have a certification program where we certify backyards. And one of the reasons that we started that, one of our volunteers was tagging monarch butterflies in Palisades Park. A couple of weeks later, 2 of those tagged, was it 2, Marie, 3? 2 of those tagged monarchs showed up in Marie's yard in Hackensack. And so that then really proved to us what we've been saying all these years, that habitat is really important. Where did the other ones go? What if Marie's yard wasn't there? So it's really brought it home to us and how important creating these habitats are. But of course, there's a lot of other butterflies that need a lot of other different things. Asters, one of the most important flowers in nature. They are the host plant for that little pearl crescent butterfly. He's about that big. Most butterflies are about that big. And we'll talk about the big monarchs and swallowtails. But now you got to start looking for these little guys. Most about a ½ inch. Many of the skipper species, no less beautiful. But again, asters, very important. The little Baptisia for the wild indigo duskywing, another small little butterfly. But again, and it's not, a lot of the duskywings will use the wild indigo. So what you want to do, have a lot of biodiversity, different flowers, different host plants, different nectar sources. Violets. Okay, now it's time to confess. I'm going to be like the preacher here. We're going to come clean. Who digs up their violets from their yard? The truth will set you free. Hallelujah. But if you get rid of those violets, you're getting rid of that flitterary. The great spangled flitter. That's its host plant. Save some of those violets somewhere. I'm not saying you got to have them all over you, but you got to save some. You got to protect species like that, right? Now you feel better, right? Confessed. Golden Zizia, the state butterfly, the black swallowtail. Many of you put out fennel or dill, right? And you get these funny caterpillars all over. You say, what the heck is going on? But this is our state butterfly. And the wildflower, the native wildflower for it is called Golden Zizia. And that's actually my dirty hand there at one of our butterfly gardens, showing you how they actually use it. This is a real interesting story. If you're not familiar with the Pipevine swallowtail and Dutchman's pipevine, so the story is that around the early 1900s, everybody grew pipevine on their front porch. It was just the in plant to do. And kind of front porches fell out of favor. Who sits on the front porch anymore, right? God forbid. And so that plant just kind of disappeared until the only place it kind of grew in our area, at least in our local area, was along the Palisades. Well, if the pipevine disappeared, so did the pipevine swallowtail butterfly. But then enthusiasts, again, regular people decided, well, we're going to try to bring back this butterfly and we're going to plant more pipevine. And that's what happened. And if anybody ever goes to, this is a prime example, anybody ever goes to Rossler's Nursery in Allendale, and you see the little house up front, that's pipevine growing all over the house, which probably has been growing along there for probably 80 years or so. It's just really incredible. But that's the host plant for the pipevine swallowtail butterfly. And those are the creepy caterpillars. They look like aliens, right? They're really creepy and beautiful, though. You know, and it's just wonderful to see them. That was one of our plants at Teaneck Creek. Also, grasses are very important. You don't think of grasses and butterflies, right? But they're very important. Spicebush. Spicebush, right? Just how plants work perfectly together, right? Spicebush, swallowtail butterfly. What host plant is it? Spicebush. Right? The spicebush is the perfect, if there's a perfect native plant, it's spicebush, right? You can make tea. The berries are very important to migratory birds, and it's the host plant for the spicebush swallowtail butterfly. Beautiful plant. Instead of forsythia, you could plant spicebush, little yellow flowers in the spring before the leaves come out. It's getting more available at more places, at more nurseries, so plant spicebush. The viburnums even, that you usually plant for birds, all right? Tulip tree, who has a tulip tree in their yard? Eastern tiger swallowtail. If you have a lot of swallowtails around, you probably have a tulip tree around, although this is a butterfly that will use a couple different host plants. Hackberry, right? Hackberry tree, great for birds, but also things like the snout, the question mark, and the morning cloak. And those little holes, right? So people panic, right? Used to panic. My grandmother, I remember my old Italian grandmother, if there were holes in some plants, I had to go to the nursery and get some atomic weapon. I had to kill anything that was making holes in there. But that's a good thing. We know that's a good thing now. When all things are in balance, everything takes care of another. So when you see, and believe me, these butterflies do not kill these plants. That's how it was in nature. Morning cloak. Ken, he saw a morning cloak out there this morning. That's a butterfly that overwinters as an adult, right? And so you get a nice warm spring day, they just pop out. Beautiful big butterfly. And it's called a morning. See how it's spelled morning and morning, like a funeral cloak. Beautiful butterfly. The question marks are called a question mark because the hind wing actually has a little question mark on it. And there's many different species of goldenrods that you could plant in your yard that different sizes, heights, bloom different times, but there's a goldenrod for every yard. The eupatoriums, Joe Pieweed, Little Joe Common Boneset, Wild Ageratum. Couldn't have a real butterfly habitat without at least one of these guys in there. The Mopsis, that's a new one that we put in, I think, just last year in our gardens. Now, there's a little silver-spotted skipper there. So, right there, that little silver spot. How do you think that butterfly gets its name? A little silver spot. Right? All right, so nectar shrubs, buttonbush, clethra, great nectar sources for the butterflies. And that's me. That's my buttonbush in my yard. So instead of butterfly bush, which isn't native, which is sort of the naturalists will equate butterfly bush with giving kids too much sweet soda. the buttonbush has precisely the right nectar that the butterflies need. Okay, so for those of you who maybe I just have a balcony, maybe I want to do some annuals, I can only do a few perennials, you could use some annuals too, although natives, perennials are always better, but doesn't hurt to supplement your yard with some annuals. Mexican sunflower, the zinnias, they work great. The old-fashioned kind of zinnias too, not the ones that cover up the nectar sources. The lantanas are great. There's another red admiral. Lantanas are great in flower boxes. It's a very dry areas, and they're like subtropical, and they'll stand up to heat and perfect for flower boxes. So let's bring in cabbage whites and silver-spotted skippers. And even get rarities. Just like in the birding world, we get rarities too. We get the common buckeye, red-banded hair streaks. Again, the red-banded hair streak is about that big, right? So I remember at our butterfly festival in the Meadowlands a few years ago, we had a red-banded hair streak show up at a plant in our demonstration table. So if you could see a couple hundred people lining up to see a butterfly that big, it was really, really comical. And puddling's very important. Create wet areas in your. You ever see butterflies along your driveway doing this? Right? So they're getting moisture from the wet sand and soil, and they're getting minerals. So create a puddler. And so just create this, wet areas, put in some soil, some compost. Some people put a little stale beer in there. Also a bird bath for them. Just put in a lot of rocks where they could land on and get some moisture. Don't make it high. Just make the water level just below the level of the rocks. Just make a depression in the ground. Works just fine. So some basic tips. Again, organic fertilizer only, no pesticides, improve the soil. It's all about the compost. Don't clean up. And organic, if you're going to use mulch, use organic mulch. Right? So stagger bloom times if you can. Continuous nectar source for migration and for butterflies that have come out different times of the year. Group same plants together if you can. Butterflies see better if the plants are grouped together than having single plants. And deadhead them. Cut back and bring some of those new blooms out. Some of the caterpillars, there's monarch caterpillar, but there's a spicebush swallowtail caterpillar. And unlike the monarchs, which are just out all the time and they're eating away, the spicebush swallowtails will roll themselves up in a spicebush leaf like a cigar. And so if you have a spicebush and you see that leaf all rolled up, unroll it a bit, and you may see that guy looking back at you. Those aren't really the eyes, though. Those are just to scare off predators. Very, very interesting. And kids just love them. When I take kids to the butterfly garden and I unwind that leaf and they see those big eyes, it just drives them crazy. Swamp milkweed. Again, look at the swamp milkweed. Now, again, they don't need flowers on it to lay their eggs. Swamp milkweed is on the left, but look at after the caterpillars, the monarch caterpillars ate it. Did it come back the next year? Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine, because that's what it's supposed to do. Chrysalis, eventually, and usually these caterpillars now will run away. They're not going to form that chrysalis on that milkweed. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to scatter. And so they'll connect themselves maybe to a shrub, maybe to another flower, form that J shape and do one of the greatest metamorphoses in nature. And that's when they're depositing eggs. Very different behavior. The butterflies will fly around and drop an egg under each leaf. So it's not, again, they won't see them on the flower. If they're laying eggs, won't be, although they could lay eggs on the flower too. But again, it's depositing an egg, flying around again, depositing another egg, and that's how you know they're there. And that butterfly actually came from that chrysalis. So it's not just a garden, it's a habitat restoration project. The nectar pollen serves as a variety for birds, moths, bees, pollinators, and all kinds of bugs. Ruby-throated hummingbirds will love your butterfly garden. So will the goldfinches. And if you look close, you can see the goldfinches on the left eating the seeds from the hyssop or agastache. The bees, the honeybees, our native bees like the eastern bumblebees have become a big part of the garden. Our native orchard bees, that little blue bee, which is a solitary bee. You can even put out bee houses for them, which work very well. These are not bees that swarm. Basically, they go unnoticed for the most part, and just really cool. So have fun, encourage your neighbors to garden for butterflies, enjoy discovering different butterflies that you can attract, get kids involved, and look for moths at night. Oh, it's a whole different cool world. So you could change the world one plant at a time. Definitely, this is definitely something you could all do. We could all do together. So the wonderful places you can go and learn about these plants, of course, here at the Botanical Garden, where we have butterfly garden, pollinator and hummingbird gardens right here in back of the building. And we do organized walks, and we'll get wonderful things like the giant swallowtail, which is really a special butterfly we get here almost every year. The Court Park and the Meadowlands, and these are places, if you're a member of Bergen County Audubon, and by the way, you don't have to live in Bergen County, it's just a name. Most of Passaic County comes on our jurisdiction. And these are places where we put our money where our mouth is, right? So we pay for these gardens and help with them. The Court and the Meadowlands, great butterfly habitat. That's Butterfly Day. Well, we got a queen butterfly last year. You might have saw it all over the news. It was on TV, it was in the paper. A queen butterfly, which is a southern butterfly, just kind of showed up in the Meadowlands. Just a wonderful butterfly. Our overpeck butterfly garden, our head master gardener is here, Pat Knight. Wave, Pat. So if you want to volunteer at any of these places, but Overpeck Garden we set up as a restoration project, but also as a learning area to learn about these great plants. And where we get long-tailed skipper, which is the first long-tailed skipper ever recorded in Bergen County at that butterfly garden. So you never know what you're going to see. Teaneck Creek is another project we got going. And so we do free nature walks, educational programs like this one all over the state. We work with local schools. Marie does our education chair. So don't forget, milkweed in every yard. Take the pledge. Get your garden certified with Bergen County Audubon. Marie could tell you a little more about that. It's all free. There's no money involved. We just give you a sign. You fill out a form, and you're certified. I do a blog every other week, Life in the Meadowlands, so check that out. So thanks for coming.